we will give it to Augusta for free, and then I will pay for it by selling it to the public.
There's one thing we cannot put a dollar sign on.
There will be people go out of business because of all the stuff that we're building.
This is how you know you've won in life. What's up, man?
Not much, man.
Welcome back. Another episode, C-Suite Unfiltered.
I feel like you moved your podcast mic up there a
Did I go up? Did I go too high? Normally I just grab my hand
I'll
and
just do this and then just tilt it down.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, appreciate you hopping on. Things have been kind of crazy, kind of busy. Yeah. Any initial updates or anything notable you'd like to share right off the bat?
Well, I think last time we were in the middle of hell.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. That was the thumbnail.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I'd say we have diagnosed hell.
Okay.
We know where the fires are coming from.
Okay, good.
And so I made a post on my podcast, but it was, I'd say the past few weeks I've learned that sometimes jumping into the fire and firefighting isn't actually what's needed. You actually need to step back, diagnose where the fire is coming from, and create a strategy to actually do it correctly and execute. And so when you have a large team of engineers, you just throwing everyone in the fire is tempting because you have a lot of firepower. You have a lot of people we could have just jumped in.
Yeah.
But I know if I did that in 6 to 12 months when Copilot continues to grow, we'll have more issues because we duct tape the problem. And I know that in the short term, my pain that I was feeling and I'm still feeling now could have been resolved faster. But in the long term, I'd just be kicking the can down the court, down the field. So I feel like the past few weeks has been restructuring things, creating internal review committees, all the things that are boring to a founder type person is what's required.
Gotcha.
And so I feel we have it all in place. And yesterday we jumped into the fire with a plan and a game plan. We changed so many structures and internal things. And so I just hope that over the next 2 to 3 weeks, all of that hard work pays off in the form of fixing the fires long term. So that's what we're working on now.
Nice. Yeah.
As of yesterday was the first day I felt like we jumped into the fire and we're actually starting to make things happen. And I just hope that it's felt by the users.
Yeah, no, shout out to the Copilot team. I've even noticed some changes in the accounts that I'm in. Things seem to be moving in the right direction. Yeah. So I know it wasn't fun there for a while.
Well, it's still not fun.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, the house is still burning. You're still in hell. You have a plan that is not going to be a patch job.
Yeah,
so.
Fair enough. Gotcha. And that's kind of something I know we talked very Copilot heavy last episode, but I thought maybe we'll talk a little more Augusta heavy. And I know we don't like to get in the weeds on Augusta, but I do also like to call you out when you have specific quotes or when you make certain claims, right? Okay. Like any good co-host should do on a podcast, right? I'll call you out.
Journalist, any good journalist?
Yeah. I'm a big J journalist. I got the verified check mark on Twitter, on X. I don't though. So I had a thought the other day. I was like, I remember you saying this and we're kind of coming up on it. So you said there's kind of a roadmap for Augusta for 2024. We talked about this in the round table. Those are our quarterly meetings with our owners. And you said a couple things in there that reminded me of things you said 5 years ago. And specifically 5 years ago, you said, 4 years ago, at the end of 2024, it will be 5 years since these claims. You said that in 5 years, the moat for Augusta will be obvious. So clearly we're building the moat, right? Clearly there are certain integrations we're using, and I'm not sure how much you want to share publicly. Obviously, Copilot is something that you're massively developing and putting your time into. So what is the moat looking like right now at the beginning of 2024, and kind of what should it look like at the end of 2024 so that it is, quote, obvious to everyone else?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that we can do to create a moat is basically create technology that no one else can duplicate because of cost. That's really the biggest thing we can do right now. Down the road, the things that will be more felt by the industry is we'll have so much brand power that we'll be able to get a location started and get 3 times as many leads simply because people are aware of what Augusta is. At 150 locations, maybe we have a tiny little bit of that. But I'd say we really need to get past 300 in the US just to feel that actual, when we start locations, we see meaningfully different lead trajectories than if they were starting independently and just spend a bunch of money on advertising to gain awareness. But I think that right now, for example, the stuff we developed with the AI, no solo operator or no independent business, even a big company, is going to be able to build that. It just costs so much money.
Right.
And so we have all the buying power of Augusta to be able to build something that answers the phone 24/7. And basically the past 7-8 months, we've been refining Max AI, which Max is the name of the person answering the phone using AI. We were refining it, and it's all like prime time for him is Spring Rush.
Yeah.
And that is when there's so many calls coming in, and there would otherwise be mislead opportunities during the evening, the night, and the weekends. Can we pick those up? That's going to be a huge, in my opinion, a huge opportunity for Augusta to be able to capitalize on. And I just know the cost right now of that technology is hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think that in 4 years, it's going to be off-the-shelf stuff.
Okay.
So I think we're basically just getting 3 to 4 years ahead, refining it to the point we'll be able to connect with Copilot for Augusta, et cetera. So that way, in 4 years, when it is off-the-shelf technology, we're already figuring out much more complex issues down the road. Like when they call in, can we determine which services every single location offers and be able to firefight from there? Can we handle invoicing related and estimate related things? Because I do believe in 3, 4, maybe 5 years that lead collection from using an AI bot will be very, very commonplace over the phone. And it will be like off the shelf, buy it for $100 a month type situation. However, the initial build, like that technology is not there. We have to train Max on like words in our industry, and like mulch is different than like tree mulch and like all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so, right now I'd say that is a moat. And then by the time it is off the shelf technology, we will be like way ahead.
Yeah.
Other stuff that we've been working on.
Yeah. Can I just interject there? So when you talk about like something we're customizing versus off the shelf, right? The off the shelf, I'm trying to think of the term that came to mind. Like, it works. It's there's a term for that. Like it just simply works, but it's not great. It's not good. Serviceable. That's the word I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Like when there's off the shelf AI technology, lead generation, lead collection technology, it will be serviceable. But what you're saying is that in 4 years, right now we're serviceable, or we're past serviceable, I would say, in the information I have. So we'll be leagues and bounds ahead of serviceable to where it's actually something that your customer wants, right? They're serviceable versus what people want. And I think that's where we're going to get to, is the fact that like it will be so refined. People would rather talk to an AI than a real person because it's so refined.
Yeah, like off the shelf stuff, I think in 3 to 5 years will be that you sign up, you pay $100 to $200 a month. It's like, hey, we are going to, anytime you miss a call, it'll be routed to us.
Right.
We will gather what lead information in terms of contact information of the customer, and we'll send that to an email. That's going to be coming down the pipe. The thing is, we're way beyond that. Like we're already taking every single call and categorizing into like 80 different sets of what type of call this is.
Cool.
We can delineate, we already have tracking for like how much the customers are frustrated. We can determine when they need to be handed off. We have routing for like based upon certain words, when they need to be going to a command center or a live person versus if Max can handle the entire call. There's just so many things that we've been working with that like off the shelf alone, it will gather contact information, but it will very much seem like out of the box. There is still a good 30 to 40% of people when I listen to these recordings of Max that truly believe he's real.
Yeah.
The other 30%, like, because we do tell them we are a virtual agent, right? To some people, they immediately get, okay, I'm talking to a robot, I'll be much more succinct.
Yeah.
Other people will have full out conversations with Max, and he will understand and transcribe, and we have recordings, and we have analytics, and we have text message verification of their email address to make sure there's not incorrect information being shared. So like those are the things that like will take a lot longer for people to figure out. And so that's like one thing that we've done. Do you want me to keep going of other stuff?
No, that's great. And I think it's also too, like the side note to that is you could have serviceable AI lead generation, lead collection, but you're also customizing it for our industry. And what you're doing is you're creating frameworks for it, right? And that's one thing that, I talk a lot about with owners and general managers in this industry is like, gosh, I wish there was just an obvious like decision-making framework. Well, you're creating that in a phone answering service. So that way, like this decision goes here, this decision goes there, this goes to a live agent. And it just makes it that much more streamlined. Really.
Yeah, and like a lot of the things that we're building seem somewhat disconnected right now, but they will all come together towards the end of this year. So like I'm very confident, but to my predictions standpoint, like I do believe that like it will be obvious by the end of this year that there's like so much stuff that we've built that like you can't duplicate, and it becomes an obvious choice to join Augusta. Because if you actually look at like, so for example, I went to a grounds guy's a few weeks ago to do a turnaround. Yep. He's doing $500,000 annual revenue. He paid $60,000 in franchise fees, right? I personally, I don't think I could actually sell that as a value add to a franchisee in our industry and be like, it's worth it. I just don't. However, I am very confident I can charge $14,000. That's $1,200 a month, and be able to say like all these things we provide is worth it.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that.
Yeah.
And so like, and next week, probably I'm going to Calgary. Well, I guess we'll find out when this comes out. But like, probably going to be going to Calgary to help a call center to get turned around.
Okay.
And they charge $2.97 a minute.
Ooh.
We charge 90 cents a minute.
Yeah.
To $1.09. So basically $1, like almost a third of what their cost.
Yeah.
And to the fact that like I see their margin, I'm like, okay, they're tight, but we're able to we're still tight at Command Center, but like we make it work at a third of their cost to the owners of Augusta Nation. And so that's also like value. And so I just like have no doubt that $14,000 per year is a no-brainer when we start building this sort of thing. Like, you got the discount thing from Echo the other day, right? So like from day one, your very first piece of equipment, you're saving 20%. Like, okay, that's like $100 per piece of equipment you're buying. And so I just really do believe that like by the end of this year, it'll be a matter of like, you don't join Augusta because you want to have your own brand. And I totally get that.
Yeah.
But outside of that, there's not a reason.
Agreed.
Because the enterprise value is greater, the systems behind you are greater, you'll scale faster, you'll be more profitable, you'll be able to get to multiple locations faster, you'll have general managers that you can send off to get trained so that you don't have to be in operations. Like that sort of list as it grows, guess what isn't growing? Your franchise fee. That fee stays the same every single month.
Yeah.
And so, the people that joined really early, their license now is 5 times more valuable. They can sell it, and there's real enterprise value there. So that's kind of like the one thing, Max AI. But like the other thing that we're working on and have been doing for a long time, like working on the past several months, is the instant quote forms.
Yeah,
and
really
I already know, I've seen it on other people. They're trying to replicate what we're doing, and I get great joy in seeing. I shouldn't say that. I don't get great joy in seeing people fail, but I see great joy in seeing how hard we work to make it what it is, and seeing other people try, and I know it's going to do their site. It's going to slow it down dramatically. So we have basically an interactive form that, based upon the pictures, gives the pricing, and I know that we're going to be able to connect that with Copilot down the road. We're going to be connected with Max AI so that he can give pricing over the phone without a live agent 24/7, and be able to get the price and get the credit card information of the customer into Copilot with a job on the schedule, and it is ready to roll.
Yeah.
Without any human interaction. I am very confident we can do that by the end of this year. And so, no one else is going to have access to things like instant price forms. We're not doing it lawn care web design. It took us months to build. We could never do it for lawn care web design.
Yeah.
So we're doing it for homes for Augusta only. And same thing with Max AI. I'm never going to build that and then go sell it to the community. Like, it took so much money and customization and like pain. I'm not going to go try to sell that. And so, those things are reserved for Augusta. And I do believe that with Copilot being the highway that we're building, all these little things like P4P being able to get integrated, be able to have Command Center much better integrated, having the instant price forms and Max all integrated is like, we have this highway, we have this entrenched mode of transportation that we can then build off of. And as I was talking to the owners last week on the roundtable, is like, if you look at the transportation and like the layout of the U.S., it follows several things: waterways, railways, and highways. Right. And so like, I believe that like the infrastructure of what we're trying to build with Copilot is the thing that's going to connect all these things that we are currently working on. So for example, like when you go to when you do instant quote door hangers, like you don't have to have the customer write things out. You can have it where they scan a QR code. It already knows the price. It makes the estimate in Copilot, and then they're accepting it right there based upon the scanned QR code. Right. Those are the type of things that like we can only do for Augusta because it has to be so customized. We'll never be able to make that public. And so, the thing with Max AI, the thing with instant quotes, the thing we're doing with Copilot, I think will all converge toward the end of this year to make it was like, it is basically impossible to build this. And it has taken us a full 5 years to build it. Like, I had to have Command Center as a way to build the infrastructure, the plumbing for Max to then plug into. I have to build Copilot, the plumbing that I can plug in instant quotes, plug in instant quote door hangers, and be able to use all this stuff. And so I just believe that the next 5 years, like the main focus and objective of Augusta is to dominate on software. And if we do that, we'll be able to produce the product at a lower price, at higher profit margins, and with less overhead because we won't need as many office staff and people and all the rest of it. So, and I think that by getting customers their quote fast and efficiently, and in a matter of 3 minutes, get their card information, the price is confirmed, the job is on the schedule, and they know the date of service. I just happen to believe that a lot of people want that.
Yeah, totally.
And especially the customers that we want the most. And we've already seen it with people that have accepted instant price forms that you're like, man, I would have charged $40 for this. They accepted 60. Let's go, right? And so people always, for things like instant quotes on the forms that we're doing, is like, well, what if the person puts lower, and you're like, man, that should be a $40 mo, and they accept it for $35. Okay, great, but there's gonna be people on the other side of the distribution, right? And so, anyways, getting on a sidetrack, but those are some of the things that we're working on to basically make what I said 5 years ago a reality. And that is like, by the end of this year, a lot of these things are converging, and it's just a matter of like these different projects we've been working on. There's another project I'm working on that I'm not gonna talk about yet.
Yeah.
Share it with the franchisees, of like, we will give it to Augusta for free, and then I will pay for it by selling it to the public.
Yep.
And then we can plug it into all of our little outlets and just have like this massive advantage.
Yeah.
And so I think when I talk about Augusta, some people are like, well, that's going to hurt us. Yes, it is going to hurt you if you don't do exactly what we're doing. And that's how we change the industry, right? Like, my goal is, by having all this technology, we have a unique advantage to be able to produce a product that's premium and at a lower price. Those are two very different things. The only way to do that is have a unique advantage. In some way, you have something that no one else in the market can tap into, and that's going to be software. And so the secondary part of changing the industry is we need locations. Like, that's the only reason we franchise, is to get tons of locations that are doing what we're talking about and using this infrastructure, so that way then it forces everyone else to adopt those strategies.
Yeah, proof of concept.
Like, it is a matter of like, force them or else they fail. And so, like, do I want people to fail? No, absolutely not. Do I want them to use the systems that we talk about? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And because that's how we change the level of professionalism in the industry, is like forcing people to change. And so, yes, there will be people go out of business because of all the stuff that we're building, and we will be able to be very price competitive and be very profitable in these markets. And it will be done by software. And if people don't adopt the ideologies of P4P, open book management, treating their team the way that we do, then they will fail. And I will feel bad for 5 seconds, but the goal and achievement of Augusta hinges on us changing the level of professionalism. And unfortunately, we will only do that when we compete with people. And so I want people's websites to look better. I want them to answer their phone faster. I want them to adopt technologies that we are 5 to 10 years behind on other industries on. I want them to adopt these to make it better for the customer. And the only way they will do that is if we do it and then put pressure on them to compete.
Force their hand.
100%.
Effectively. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of want to just go back just a hair. So you talked about Max AI answering the phones at Augusta, right? Then you talk about instant quote price forms and upsell forms on the website. Like, people can get an estimate, a quote right then and there on their website. The theme of that is, I would say, a term called lost opportunity cost. So why do you think you're focused on avoiding lost opportunity so much for those inside of Augusta? Like, what is the point of that focus? Tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like that's what those two things focus on.
Well, there's going to be customers that don't want to put their information on a form. There's going to be customers that don't want to talk to Max AI. My question is twofold. One, are those the customers you want? And secondly, what about all the customers that do want that? And what type of customer is that individual? The person that values their time isn't going to nitpick you on every little thing every single week. They're going to put a card on file. They're going to let it run. They're going to let you do winter services, and they're accept every single upsell because they just want their property looking good. They're not going to question you on price. You might never ever do an in-person estimate with them. They just want the job taken care done. That's the type of person that adopts these technologies of saving themselves time, because they have typically a higher net worth. They're also going to accept all these other services because they like this technology. Like, the idea of one-click estimates eventually being able to be done in text is going to be very, very helpful for that type of individual, because they're at work and it's like, do you want mulch in your bed? It's going to cost you $800. Yes. Done. It'll be scheduled for next Thursday. Like, that's what we need to get to.
Totally.
And so I just believe that what is the lost opportunity is, if you're open 40 hours a week, you're missing out on 120 hours a week of your phone not being answered. And in those 120 hours a week, which is like what, 67, 80 or 60, 70% of the hours in a week, you're not answering the phone. Only 37% of people that when they hit a voicemail message, leave a voice message, which means out of the 60 to 70% of hours of the week, only 30% of the people calling you are going to leave a message. And it's vastly lower when people are trying to ask for new business versus people leaving you a message because their invoice is wrong or they want to change their schedule or their dog got out or whatever. And so I see that across at Augusta, that 37%, and it's also a national average. Like, we're very much close within that. If someone hits a voicemail, they're not leaving a message. So will there be people be unhappy with Max? Yes. 79% of people complete the call with Max, which is better than 37% of people leaving a voice message. And then we having to play phone tag with them tomorrow because they didn't give us their full address. Right. Like, that's the type of thing we're solving for. And the technology, new technology will never be perfect, but it needs to be better. And I truly believe the math is like completely on the side of who adopts this software and technology will be the one that takes a commodity, which is lawn care. And that's why, like, I look at the grounds guys, like, no shade to them, but like, I would never feel good charging someone 10% of their revenue and they're growing their business. There's people inside Augusta Nation we'd be paying $200,000 a year from. I wouldn't feel right about that.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't say that my value provided them was worth that much. Because, like, as you grow to that size of business, you don't need the franchisor as much. You actually figure out a lot of things yourself. But if we develop all these other things, it becomes like, for 14 grand, I get access to all of this. Like, it becomes, in like the first year, it's half of that. So it's like 7 grand or whatever.
Yeah.
So, like, these are the type of things I think about. I feel very good about the value proposition. And I think that I can just, like, as we connect all these pieces, it'll just become like glaringly obvious that for $14,000 a month or $14,000 a year, I'm going to get a website, access to command center, access to all this technology that takes hundreds of thousands of dollars to build, by the way. And you can just plug into it and all the discounts and everything else. And so that's the goal. And then I just want as many people to join because it makes it so painfully obvious. And then by doing that, we will create enough pressure on the industry to actually make changes because no one cares about you and me talking behind these microphones until they're competing with us.
Right. Yeah. So what would be your elevator pitch? Like, what is the moat? The moat, like, summarize everything you just said. It's all of that, and it is hard to do that. But what is the elevator pitch of the moat that is around Augusta?
We will create software, and we are creating software that will create a lower overhead structure and a lower price structure at a higher profit margin than anyone else in the industry we will compete with.
Yeah. What if that? Let me just play devil's advocate for the heck of it, for the pod. What if you had someone that, like, their goal just isn't aligned with that? Like, they're fine being in operations forever. Would you say that they just have a higher risk tolerance because if they go down, the business goes down, which you've talked about, in some of your previous videos and kind of your story about when you were hospitalized while running your original Augusta location? Or would you say it's just, hey, like, you just have a different value set than we have, and that's fine? Like, what would you say to those people?
There's definitely people that, like, just want to mow grass for the rest of their life.
Totally.
Right. And I appreciate that. I would also say, though, that you might be short-sighted somewhat by the fact that, like, you can't mow grass until you're 7 years old. And if you do, there's going to be consequences in terms of physical. And you're potentially, the reason I say short-sighted is you're not being responsible for the people that you need to take care of. If you have family, if you have team members, and everything hinges on you, it is extremely self-serving to be like, well, I'm not going to create systems in my business because I don't want to be managing people and I just want to be doing the work. Well, what happens if you can't? Now you can't provide for your family. Now your employees that you have, because everything hinges on you and you take the calls and you run payroll and you do everything, they don't have a job. Like, that seems somewhat short-sighted to me and somewhat selfish. Now, again, I think that people should build their business to serve themselves. And so if your objectives are that you just enjoy the operations of actually doing the work, fantastic. I do believe the responsible thing to do, and if you believe in being like a good steward of what is given to you, is to make sure that that business can run without you, and that that business can provide for your family and the employees, the family of your employees, even if you get hit by a bus. I think that's like fundamental, like, leadership as you scale and grow. And you're like, okay, well, can I do $100,000 a year by myself, make a decent living, et cetera? Yes, you can. If you get hurt, you're not going to be able to provide for your family. There is no unemployment insurance here. There is no thing to fall back on. Like, I see every single day that failing in terms of someone having an injury, having a divorce, having something crazy happen, and they completely ruin their life. And so I see that aspect, and I say, I think that, yes, you want to be in operations. Fantastic. let's go build this business to the point where you can delegate sales and the admin side to someone else, and then you take operations.
Right.
And build this business to say 800,000 or 900,000. And if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, there's 2 other people trained up on how to do operations so that not everyone loses their job and loses their livelihood, and your family still has something to provide for them. But I totally also understand just like the willingness and the desire to work hard and earn the money yourself and not manage team members. Like, yeah, it's stressful. I get it.
Totally.
But I do think it's sometimes a little bit short-sighted.
Yeah. That's fair. And I think too, like to the operators that may be listening, like you want to be in operations, you can still do that inside of Augusta, right? It's not that you are forced to scale to a certain size. You are not forced to hit certain KPIs or metrics that you will be penalized if you don't hit, right? We have a lot of guys that are more operations focused, but they realize that their business needs to get with the times. It needs to use software. It needs to have an online presence. It needs those things in order to survive long term.
The question is, even if someone wants to do, say, $250,000 a year, right? Them and one employee can do that, I believe, inside of Augusta, because you have Command Center to be able to hand off all the admin. You have the Max AI to be able to answer leads and get information from them. You have Command Center to do over-the-phone estimates, and you can just simplify services to the point where you're just super efficient with you and one guy. I do believe that. And so the question is, that $250,000 person would probably only do $150,000 in revenue if they didn't have Command Center and all the backing, because guess what? They'd have to figure out their website. They'd have to make sure they answer their phone. They have to be checking their email all the time. And so I really do believe that when you start looking at just the math of like, even at $300,000, $14,000 per year, assuming your growth model and everything, and you have full access to Command Center, you're looking at, what is that? At $300,000, it's like 3 or 4%. Yeah. I believe that is a fair exchange of value for the fact that you will probably be able to take your max revenue from $150,000 to $250,000 with the same truck and same employee. And so the question is that $14,000 worth the $100,000 in jump in revenue? I believe it is. Assuming that you can do more than 14% profit margin in that setup, that's a good trade-off.
Yeah.
And the part that's intangible is the fact that if you get hit by a bus, Command Center can contact your employee and literally manage them remotely.
100%.
And we've done that multiple times.
Yep.
People get into trouble. People have issues. They get in, hospitals, et cetera. We can, as long as they've been following the systems, we can literally jump in with their team and operate their business for them. And so I just see so often the times life events cause businesses to close down. And I think that having systems and procedures in place and having people to back you up, not just Command Center, but a whole group of people around you and other owners that can jump in and help you, prevents those low lows from you when you quit. And whether it be the camaraderie and the community, whether it be actually the technical help of Command Center to jump in and actually do things for you during those low moments, like you need to get through those times just to stay in business.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think like there's something that I say on a lot of my calls is that there's one thing we cannot put a dollar sign on, and that is the community, the culture, the support that you're going to have. Like in Washington, Western Washington, we don't get a lot of snow. Anecdotal evidence, but it's still a cool story, right? And then we got hammered. In 12 hours, we had over 10 inches of snow in most of Western Washington. Well, I had a coaching call with one of the Washington-based owners that day, and he said, yeah, after this call, I'm going to go head over to this guy's location and help him out because he's behind on snow route. And it's like, that's just something you get as part of Augusta, right?
Well, like, for example, like next year we're doing where everyone that's over 7 figures will have like a separate retreat for them, right? And, we'll just have an event at some place and be like, hey, if you want to come, if you're doing over 7 figures, you can come and be in this.
Yeah.
I'm paying $60,000 per year to do the same thing for software.
Right.
It's like, if you're above a certain threshold in revenue, you can be in this room.
Cool.
It's capped at 50 people. I'm paying $60,000 a year for 3 events a year to be able to be in that room.
Yeah.
Right. I think that the goal that we're doing there, for example, is creating that community for the larger operators that don't need our support because they figured out the systems.
Right.
And they're multiple location owners and they're running the systems. We still want to create that, like, hey, you need a group of people that are all doing what you're doing, the same business model, everything, and they push each other still. And that's like the value of the community. And like, I personally believe the community is the value, like you said, because it keeps everyone's head in the game when they would otherwise quit. And everyone's using the same systems, et cetera, et cetera. But it's just one of those intangibles we can't sell because no one sees the value until you're actually in it and you understand, like, community is what like makes everything move. And that's we talked about that before in the pod.
Yeah, you got me smiling there a little bit because it reminded me of a coaching call I had probably within the last week. It was with the Storts.
Oh, yeah.
And we were going over their revenue, and I won't share any of those numbers, but we were going over kind of their numbers and talking game plans. So I was like, good year last year. I'm assuming this year we're flipping to profit mode, kind of enjoy the fruits of the labor. And they immediately asked, well, is Mike still doing that 7-figure retreat thing? And I was like, yeah, he's still planning on doing it. And they were like, so yeah, we're going to push for 7 figures this year. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So then we started game planning growth mode. And it was super fun. And I think too, like sometimes like, I say this on calls a lot, and on coaching calls, it's like, it's the beautiful thing of business. It's a game. Like, yes, it is your livelihood. Like, yes, take it seriously. Of course, treat your customers right, treat your employees right, give them opportunities. But like, it's a game, and it's fun, and it's exciting, and you play with numbers, and you move this, and you move that. And I think it's more fun to do it when you're on a team or with a group of people that are like-minded and want to play it with you.
Yeah.
You know?
What's so cool about the story, for example, is like I think he did it for like 10 or 15 years and kind of capped out around 300,000-400,000.
Yep.
And then like you see their ability to like come to conference, like absorb, like, oh, we need a CRM, like, oh, we need like implement P4P, like we need to, and you just see like their revenue is like more than doubled that in the past few years. And it's 100% because like they just took the systems and they're willing to change. And it's hard to do that for 10 or 15 years. And that's not an easy thing for anyone to do, let alone someone that's a little bit older. They're established. They're running a good business.
100%.
But always being in operations, et cetera. It's like, man, just like in a few years, like just seeing like implement systems, trust the process. It's never easy. It's always hard to change. But like, yeah, they're probably at 900,000, 850. Like
yeah,
they're close to a million.
Yeah, close to a million.
So like they're gonna push for that. Like that's super awesome. Like that's super rewarding for them, and like that's like that's like why I do all my content and stuff like that, and just to push people to be able to achieve that.
Yeah, I distinctly remember my intro call with them where it was like, we're doing the 300,000 to 400,000, like getting older, not sure how much longer we can do this. Well, guess what our call was the other day? It was, we want to get to 1 million and open location number 2, right? And in 2 years that flip happened, right? And it's not easy, but they put in the hard work. They followed the systems. They learned. They grew as people, as leaders. Their son Caleb is involved. He's a phenomenal manager for them. And it's just cool, like you're saying. In 2 years, you can see the flip of a business from doubling over doubling in revenue to almost quitting to now potentially opening a second location. Really cool story. Yep. So, yeah. Well, that's the moat. That is the moat we were building. I didn't mean for the conversation to go that direction, but it did. So I got something from the audience.
Hey, what's up? It's Lee. I'm interrupting this episode because I want to give folks maybe an opportunity to reach out and book a call with me if you're looking at joining Augusta. The discussion that Mike and I had was fairly impromptu. I always like to pick his brain on claims that he has made in the past, and I thought, man, the moat is getting bigger at Augusta. We are making it very clear why we are going to be differentiated from the rest of this industry very soon. And if you want to get in the castle, if you want to get behind the moat, I'd love to book a call with you. I'd love to chat with you. If we've already talked before, feel free to book another call with me. Just want to get you on board, before spring rush. We got one more training. And if you'd like to do that, click the link below in the description. We can book a call. I'd be happy to talk options with you and get you on board, get you wearing the Augusta yellow, and get you a part of our awesome community. That's all I got. Back to the episode.
All right, this is from Will Kelly, a good friend of ours. And I'm just going to read it verbatim. It's a little bit longer.
Okay. Is it a question?
This is a question. So he said, I have a question I would like answered, if possible, on the next pod. I know Mike went out to Jim's mowing operation in Australia, and that Jim was kind enough to open his facility up to show Mike behind the scenes. I watched a coaching call recently on the landscape business course from someone asking Mike if they could pay him to come to Command Center to shadow any ops managers to learn the operations, which Mike respectfully declined and said that would not be an option, which makes sense. However, the YouTube content doesn't talk much about building the admin and call center side of the business. So my question is, if learning from Mike directly isn't an option, who do I need to talk to, or what training program should I take to learn how to build the office side of the business while scaling multiple locations, similar to a call center approach like CC?
So I will say, like, we're planning to do a turnaround for our call center. So there'll probably be a lot of very technical things come out there. Okay, let me think here. So Yeah, so when I went over there, for example, like I was being trained as one of their franchisees. I was not getting the nuts and the bolts of what's going on behind the scenes. I got a tour and things like that, and I asked questions and things and saw stuff, and I pick up on a lot of things. But it wasn't like I was getting the nuts and the bolts of how actually things work on the back end. That is what every business must protect. If I shared every little thing that we've figured out over the past 4 years, there is no reason to join Augusta.
Yeah.
Now, I basically probably shared 95% of that with the world. The things that are real moats, in my opinion, you can't duplicate. So even just telling you like how we create Max AI, I could give you the layout of how AWS connects with all the servers and all the rest of it. It's like, you can go do this for a few $100,000.
Right.
Like, that, in my opinion,
Tesla battery
is a stronger moat.
Yeah.
Like me telling you how to build something, like I can tell you how to build, you know, like to your point, a Tesla, and like they literally open up all of their patents so that anyone can see it. Why is there not 10,000 other Teslas, like other brands that have built based upon those patents?
Yeah.
Because it's harder than it is just like, oh, there's a plan, I can build it. And the same thing is true when it comes to the franchise. I just like always laugh how many people join or book coaching calls and be like, I want a franchise. I'm like, and after the call, like the last thing they should be doing is franchising their business. And same thing with call centers. It's extremely hard, dude. Like there's so much human like error and like humans involved. And as soon as you start creating like lots of locations, etc., like, it just gets harder and harder and harder.
Let me interject right there.
Yeah.
Speaking as a third party, take my Augusta hat off, if you will. I think your struggles with Command Center have been some of your most intense struggles. And not with like the employees. I want to be very clear when I say that. The employees are fantastic. The team is phenomenal. But it's the systems that you have to create and the scalability, right? We just reworked how we do email categorization at Command Center. I mean, Brian had to make like a 17-page document. And it was necessary because it was affecting so many people. But like, that took a lot of time just to reorganize how we do email categorization, right? And I don't want to talk too much in the weeds, like you said. We have to not share certain things. But I think from my perspective, seeing you, there were a lot of challenges that you had to overcome that you just could not foresee. Like Copilot, I feel like you knew what a lot of the challenges were. And yes, it may be hell, but you knew what you were getting into. With a command center and like a call center, it's a different beast from what I saw.
Like with software, we have a little bit more of like lots of people have built software companies. There's not a lot of people that have built call centers and like for our industry, right? There's other call centers, but like you call some call centers, they have like 3 tracks that you go down.
Right.
It's like, is this customer service and I'm going to make a ticket for you? Is this like, it's very, very linear. Whereas like when you have 150 locations and every single one has different services and everyone has a different service area and then every single one has a different estimator and like you're branching, you start to have like where you have like millions of different types of things that can happen. And so that's just tough to create systems around. And it requires saying no to certain options for specific locations because like me saying yes to this, I have to times it by 150 and then I have to multiply that by 4. So now we have just multiplied how many by 1,000, right? And so, like in terms of like, so for example, let's say someone came to Command Center and like shadowed us. I just don't believe it would actually help them. I think that they would get a lot of the blocking and tackling. They'd get like, oh, we should use this software because they used it. We should do this because they did it. That's not what makes things work. We could switch to Slack instead of using Connect Team, and it would work just fine.
Totally.
That's not the secret sauce, and it's proof in that people like Elon realize like give away the patents. Who cares? Because you can't do what I'm doing. And so there's so many intangibles that actually make businesses work. And so I could tell you right now, like all the software stack that we use, whether it be Copilot or Augusta, in terms of like all the stuff we're doing, I can tell you exactly how to do it. And I still don't think people would be able to do it. And so someone coming in and watching, observing, the biggest thing for me is it slows down my team, and I don't like that.
Right.
It's like someone the other day was like, I'll pay X amount, just come shadow you for the day. It's like, look, I understand that. That's like a lot of money and everything, but like, I can't take a whole day because like, I am going to think about you. And they're like, oh, you don't have to think about me. And I was like, no, like, I'm going to be concerned about you, make sure you're not bored out of your brains, make sure your lunch is taken care of, make sure you're picked up from the airport. I'm going to just be that way. Totally. And it's not worth the time. Like, it's not a matter of money or time. It's like back to someone actually was asking a question in the mastermind. Like they wanted to go shadow underneath someone. Like, how do I do that? It's like, it's not offering free labor. It's not offering money. Those are 2 things that like they can go buy. You can go get more money and you can go buy labor. Like what you need to do is provide solutions to them. Right? So for example, if someone like Will had a solution to a problem that I had and he was able to be like, here's exactly what you should do. And then I went and did it and it worked. Now all of a sudden, that's how you get access to certain things.
Right.
Like the highest level of access is when you give solutions to someone else with no strings attached, they implement it, it works. And now all of a sudden they feel like they owe you something.
Right.
It does not matter the amount of money. Like that is an inconsequential thing. But in terms of like sharing about Augusta, oh man, because I get where he's coming from. It's like, hey, Jim's kind of like let you come over. Like, why would you not let someone else? Let me think for a second.
Yeah. Well, while you think, there's Alex Hormozy said this famous quote. He said, "You want to make money fast? Solve rich people's problems."
Yeah.
Right. So, for while Mike thinks that is.
Well, I'm just trying to get the right answer. I think the right answer is I don't want to slow down the team. And if someone was in the office, I just know we'd all accommodate them so much and help them and try to like make sure it was worth their time. Like it would slow us down. Like I know that Liz would want to make sure like they have a name tag in a special spot, and like they want to make sure that like, okay, like let's have a system to like around Mike. It's like it's not worth all of our time. We have objectives that we need to meet.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, teaching other people how we do our systems is not part of the mission of Augusta Nation. It is build tons of locations to put pressure on the industry. And if it doesn't align with that, like I just don't want to take any sort of deviate from that whatsoever. And so it's not like a secret either. It's like literally the basic stuff. It's like do the hard work. Everyone wants the magic pill. Like, what software are you using? Here, I'll tell you. Ring Central, Connect Team, Slack. Like you can just go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what are you gonna do with that? Right? It's not going to be helpful. And it's like, okay, well, how do you organize things? Well, we have all these folders. Every single location has a different chat. We have different chats inside of each department. Like, you can just start going and breaking it all down for someone. Like, is that going to help you?
Yeah.
I don't believe it does.
Yeah.
So I would say most of all, whenever someone asks for access, though, it is like, I do not want to slow the team down. Because there's many people ask, like, hey, we want to come see Copilot. I'm like, no, you're not coming into this fire. We are firefighting right now. Yeah. And, like, it's not worth any amount of money for me to slow the team down. And it also sets a precedent to the team that we have finished the finish line and we have not. Right? Like, when I start having people coming around touring our offices, we have won. And we're close to where we want to be at. And so, like, I also, like, from my perspective, like, the ideology of, like, always being day one, day two, to Jeff Bezos' point is like stasis. That's when you start having office tours and like we're gonna have people come in and like show them around and show them and there's value to that. I understand that. I'm going to do one of those next week, right? Like I'm gonna go to an office. I'm gonna learn about them, and in March I'm gonna go do another one. Yeah, right. There's value to that, and I'm paying a lot of money for those things. However, those businesses, when I see that, I realize they have lost day one mentality, and I don't know if we'll ever get there. Like, I don't think I'll ever want to be like, all right, everyone, come in and I'm going to show you how we do this. Because now I'm telling you, like, this is how you should do it. I'm like, no, I'm going to make this so much better by spending my time on that instead of just telling other people how we got to here. Yeah. Like, if I tell you how to get to here, it means I'm capped. If I'm just focused on getting to the next level, I'll make something bigger. And hopefully by watching that and observing, you'll get actually more because I'll be able to 10x what otherwise I would have showed you how to get to here. Anyway, so that was like a lot of rant.
I like it. Yeah, I think it's a good question. It's a thought-provoking question, obviously. And I think, too, I know Will's question is about, like, the office staff and scaling that side of things. But, people ask me, like, well, how did you learn how to do estimates? How did you learn how to do scheduling? And I was like, obviously, I had the pleasure of working under you and Liz, so some of that came through osmosis. But a lot of it just came from, like, watching your content, right? Like, if you go back and watch a lot of your old content, it is very operational. Maybe not so heavy on the office side, but it is on, like, managing your crews, estimates, potentially on scheduling, that sort of stuff, and that can be helpful.
And I would say, like, to answer his question more directly, a lot of stuff that we do would not be helpful for 99.99% of people because, like, first off, who has multiple locations? Then next, it's like if we had 10 locations, Command Center looked totally different when we had the first 10 locations. Yeah, like all different systems. I would not recommend you have as much structure. Like, you don't need a 17-page document if you have 10 locations. You don't.
No.
Right? We ran everything through Grasshopper. It was very clear when the phone rang. We know who, like which location, just based upon the number. We memorized everybody's names inside of Augusta Nation. Like that's harder to do when you have 75 people working and 150 locations. Like the whole structure has to change. And so I saw massive changes when we went from like when we passed 10, we had to make actual like, oh, there should be things written down. Yeah. Okay. From that, then at 50, we had to make a bunch of changes. And then when we got to like 90, 100 last year, that's when we had to like really like, and everything was built. Okay. What gets us to 1,000 locations, right? And so like that was like the tearing was like we got to create departments and we got to create department leads and you got to have assistant managers and like you got to have all these layers because that's the only way to build the infrastructure to go to the next level. And that's like what we've been doing the past few weeks at Copilot. It's like, oh, I've got to have like an engineering team, leadership team. Like, that's not fun to build that, but it was required to 10x the company. And that takes time, it takes energy, and it's not something that usually founders enjoy doing. But me sharing how Command Center works literally just wouldn't help anybody. Because even if for someone like Will, who I know wants to do like 5 locations or so, I would not recommend what we do.
Right.
It's a totally different structure. And like, you know, maybe if I would have made videos, actually, you know what would be helpful for Will? The videos that you made walking through Command Center.
The Command Center tours.
When there's like 10 people working, that would be like most beneficial. Because I think you kind of walk through a few things. A little bit with them. That'd be most helpful. Because now what we're doing, I would not recommend anyone do unless you're trying to build 1,000 person like operation and 1,000 location operation. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's pretty much all I had on that.
That seemed like I was a wet blanket to Will.
To Will.
Will, I love you.
Yeah, Will, you're great.
You're gonna do great things.
Yeah, you're awesome.
It would not be super helpful for you. I can assure you that.
Yeah. So I agree with that. I agree. Everything needs to be taken in context.
And I don't want to slow the team down, and I don't want to set the precedent that we have somehow made it. We have not made it. We are so far away from making it. I see so many holes and ways that we can improve, and we haven't even got to like the moat part. Like we're so far away. Like. I just don't want the idea like, oh, I'm showing people around the office. That I just, as a team member, I'd be like, oh, that means we won. Like we're there. Like
we're doing something right.
Yeah. I'm like no. Yeah. Like I want to be able to like fly under the radar as long as possible here. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I just figured we had to do a stock price check-in.
Oh, okay.
You know, after the big news from Tesla.
Oh yes.
You know,
what was the big news? I know it dropped, but
no.
Oh, Elon's $50 billion.
Elon's pay was voided by a judge. So I figured we do a quick check.
Okay.
It's actually it looks like it opened.
This is the day. Today.
Yeah, this is the day here. So at live 190.
Yeah. Okay. Now here's my question: did he void the stock package that he called a shot like 5 years ago, or is he voiding the new compensation package for the future?
Let's see. Pay package.
Largest company. The pay granted, it was a larger company. So they're turning that down. That's pretty brutal. Plaintiff is entitled to recision. Yeah. So this is the thing. Like, in my opinion, when he called his shot in 2018, everyone laughed him to scorn. They were like, "Oh, him asking for all this money. Good luck," and everyone approved it because this is the thing. If you create that much shareholder value, the shareholders should be willing to pay $50 billion. Like if you're able to create a $700 billion company, yes, we are willing to give you $50 billion of it.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, it'd be like me right now, being like, okay, if we ever get the business to $100 billion, Lee, I will give you $1 billion. Like I will take that in a heartbeat because I mean I have $100 billion. Yeah. It's like the fact that they're now retracing it is stupid.
Yeah.
I think the board is going to lose a bunch of credibility. I haven't looked at this at all, but just the fact that they're rescinding a pay package, it'd be like me literally being like, hey, when we get to 250 locations, you're going to get this big bonus. And then we get there and you're like, nah.
Well, this was sparked by a shareholder.
Yeah.
So the shareholder is saying he should not be paid out.
Yeah, but the shareholders agreed to this pay package in 2018.
Right. Yeah.
So like I think the board will lose credibility. The fact that stock dropped when they literally are trying to save up $50 billion. And again, this is all be stock. This is not cash.
Yeah, it's not.
But like the fact that it dropped shows that people believe in Elon, not in the fact that they're going to produce more profits this year. And so the fact of the matter is, would the company have done that without Elon in the past 5 years? The answer to that is no. The next question is, when he called his shot, he was in the middle of production hell. Yeah. It's literally like me right now. Like, Copa's going to take over the world. No one, like, I've been able to see who really believes in what we're doing versus the people that are just like fans.
Yeah.
Because right now we're in hell. The people that are supportive, I will remember. They were the true followers. They're the people that, like, in 2018, bought Tesla stock. Yeah. If you bought Tesla stock after 2020, you are a follower.
Yeah.
You are following the masses.
Hand up.
In 2017, 2018, when he called his shot, and did this, he was laughed to scorn. I still remember reading the article as I was walking to Safeco Field.
Yeah.
I still remember this because everyone thought he was absolutely insane. Like, go back to the stock price.
Well, this is, 2019, February, it was $20 a share.
Yeah, so it's 10x from then. And so no one would have believed that he could 10x the company in 5 years, a company that wasn't profitable, had all sorts of problems with creating the Model Y, all these issues. And so if you had stock before 2018 especially in Tesla, you're a true believer in Elon and in Tesla, and you deserve a lot of credit. If you are after 2020, you are a bandwagon follower.
Hand up.
And so it's just a matter of the fact that he called his shot and made that, and everyone approved it because it seems so outlandish. It gives me a little bit of hope that when I'm in the middle of hell and people are saying stuff, and someone was saying the other day, because someone made a video about how bad Copilot was, right? Mm-hmm. And so I didn't watch it. Yeah, they did. And they made it, and then they posted it on a different CRM's Facebook group.
Nice.
And so someone sent me a picture of it, and I was like, it's all good. The internet keeps good receipts.
Yeah.
And so it was but it's hard to say those things or even be confident or even think about the vision of the company, let alone your pay package. Like if right now we were a public company, I was like, hey guys, if we can get Copilot to a $50 billion market cap, I'll get $5 billion. Everyone would be like, yes, because we get $45 billion in market shareholder value. But then if you hit the mark, it's like, oh, it's so obvious. Like this is not fair.
Yeah.
It's like. So I don't know. I just think it's pretty crummy that they would try to take it back. I think they're gonna have all sorts of issues.
Yeah, this is going back to the we've won mentality.
What's that?
This is how you've won in life. All right,
won?
From a monetary standpoint, because you said if we have people if people come and tour and stuff, you're saying like we have won, we've tapped, like we are the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Is when the judge asked, is the richest person in the world overpaid? Like that's an you've won question. If someone has to ask that, like you've won the game. Like that's an actual quote from the trial. Is the richest person in the world overpaid? It's good. Do you think, not financial advice, is Tesla a buy right now?
At this price?
I did some research last night.
It's tough. Their demand curve is crumbling a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you were to make the case for buying Tesla right now, you'd have to believe in robotics and self-driving a lot. Mm-hmm. I would say if you're trying to buy right now, you're not buying a car company. You are buying it with the promise that it's robotics and it is a self-driving vehicle, and they will be the only ones that will be able to crack self-driving.
Yeah, fair enough. Gosh, I had another question for that. I can't remember. Oh.
Now, would I sell right now? No.
So that was the other question, because there's a lot of speculation. So I was on Twitter last night, and I was like, I just want to see what people are saying, what the general buzz is. And a lot of people are saying, if this forces Elon to effectively step down as CEO and not be involved in operations of Tesla anymore at a high level.
They lose a lot more than $50 billion in market cap.
I was going to say, the sell-off would be massive.
Huge.
Which then it's do you double down and buy more at a quote-unquote low price given the last couple of years.
What'll be interesting to me is if Elon makes a big deal of this with the board, or because what you don't want in a company now that they've become successful is now the founder turns against the board and you have sides, right? Because you're going to have sides being created here. Or if he is able to do this behind closed doors, resolve this and move on. And this is something that I think he's trying to get better at. Hopefully has people around him to help him, because he should, haven't seen what's going on, but he shouldn't, in my opinion, go online and start posting about his opinions of his pay package. He needs to handle this behind closed doors and let the company move forward without creating war lines, in my opinion.
He tweeted, and I was going to try to pull it up, but this isn't verbatim, but he basically tweeted don't start a corporation in Delaware. Because that's where the proceedings are happening.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was his initial reaction. And he was like, should I move all of our official corporation to Texas? Should he re-register? So he's already been on Twitter.
What law in Delaware is he specifically talking about?
Well, I think it's whatever's going on, because the judge is in Delaware based, as far as what I'm aware of.
Oh, so he's just picking shots.
Yeah.
Because I want to know what the legal ramifications of being Delaware versus Texas is.
Yeah.
Because I don't know of any specific things in terms of shareholder power versus...
Delaware Supreme Court is where he would appeal it to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so...
The fact, though, that even a judge can get involved in this is stupid.
Yeah.
It's complete overreach by the government.
What's new?
Like seriously, like it's someone's pay package. Like they literally all agreed inside this company that this was going to happen, and then it happened. Like, let it alone. Like the government should not be involved in like 90% of the things it's involved in. It's so stupid.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways I could go with that, but we can leave it we can leave it there. Do you have
like the government? Me being like, Lee, you really crushed it. We're gonna double your pay. And no. Like, seriously,
that'd be horrible.
I'm happy, you're happy, and so the government's gonna fix this. Like, what in the world?
It's not fair. That's weird. Anyways, and I'm not super informed on this, so to anyone that's listening, if I said something wrong, I apologize.
Okay, I haven't read anything.
I was reading more about the stock than I was the actual judge's decision.
Hey, but this is the C-Suite Unfiltered.
Yeah, so we can say whatever we want. It's fine. All of it is not financial advice. Do you have any not financial advice?
Go ahead.
I have one. A good book. It's written, the author, but it's a compilation of writings and speeches and poems. It's called The Book of Virtues. It was authored by William Bennett, who was Secretary of Education of Ronald Reagan. So just, back when we had like moderate conservatives and moderate Democrats, like back when people could actually talk. It's interesting. Not putting my stamp of approval on William Bennett as a person. He's got, he's a politician. So of course there's some mud in his history, if you will. But The Book of Virtues is really cool. Someone gave it to my dad back in the day, and my dad actually just gifted it to me, his copy. So it's essentially a compilation of stories, anecdotes, excerpts from speeches, poems, things of that nature from historical greats. So like Abe Lincoln, Martin Luther King, like various authors. It's really cool. Essentially, the short pitch is responsibility, courage, passion, honesty, friendship, persistence, and faith. So The Book of Virtues, how to be a virtuous person. Strongly recommend it. Kind of cool. Kind of a cool concept. I think we need more of that nowadays.
Yeah, I agree.
Not virtue signaling, just actually practicing virtues and integrity and honesty.
Okay, my non-financial advice is dumb, so it's gonna be fast.
Perfect.
But it's like what my head is the only thing I'm thinking about right now. And that is dedicated IP pools. I'll just leave it at that. People can look it up if they want. Dedicated IP pools. It's something I've been digging deep in because it's something we're doing at Copilot. It's like literally all I've been researching for the past 24 hours.
All right, cool. Well, that's it. That's the pod. Like and subscribe.